Welcome back to another Sportsnaut.com interview. I'm Scott Gulbransen, and today we're going to talk about injuries in the NFL, specifically the Nick Chubb injury with the Cleveland Browns. Horrific scene, of course, on Monday night. And to do that, we bring in former Browns fullback. He also played for the Minnesota Vikings. His name is Johnny Stanton. You can find him on x.com at Johnny Stanton 4, but it's spelled with a Roman numeral. For those of you who don't know your Roman numerals, it's IV. So Johnny Stanton IV. And we appreciate him being with us. Johnny, thanks for being with us here on Sportsnaut.
Scott, thanks for having me. And I appreciate you doing the whole story of my handle. I appreciate it.
Well, and the most important thing, and I know our readers and viewers out there probably know this from my other videos, but we both went to UNLV, so we share an alma mater.
Yeah, Rebel blood.
Where Johnny was actually a quarterback back then, but that's another story for another time. But we'll get into this now because you played with Nick Chubb in Cleveland as a member of the Browns. When an injury like this happens, Johnny, I mean, first of all, just horrific. I don't even like looking at the video, and I'm glad they didn't re-show it again and again.
I haven't seen it. I think the only like kind of snippet that I did see was from about a foot away on my phone, scrolling, and it just popped up. I'm like, okay, I can probably see it from like this inch tall view from 3 feet away. And I saw the angle at the very least, and that's not something that I feel like I need to see any more of.
No, and it was terrible. It's you see something like that happen to anybody, it's bad news, let alone Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the NFL. But when when this happens and a player of his caliber goes down, walk me through what it's like. I mean, in the intervening moments when you see that happen, first of all, as a player on the field, one of your teammates getting injured that horrifically, but then also how it carries forward. How does it carry into the locker room after the game? What goes through your mind?
Obviously you are trying to put it out of your mind. You're trying to move forward with the game. Obviously you saw Jerome Ford come into the game and make, good use of his time. He's setting himself in a position to be able to take on that starting running back role for the Browns very well. Obviously, today they picked up Kareem Hunt for a 1-year contract, and I'm excited to be able to see what Kareem does over there. Because I was with the Browns with Kareem. He's very familiar with that running back room with Coach Stump Mitchell. That is a tight group, and obviously, Kareem's experience is going to be able to help them out a lot. As far as the whole locker room goes, just within the game itself, that's something, like I said, you need to be able to set aside to be able to move forward. But when it's somebody as critical in your offense like Nick Chubb is, it's hard to be able to set that outside. Every run play that doesn't get as many yards as you hope, you're going to think about, okay, well, what if we had Chubb in there? And it affects all sides of the ball. And by the time you're not thinking about it anymore, the game's probably done. And then you start thinking about it again, because then you're on your phone, you have the media talking to you. It's the full focus. It's going to be the full focus for at least the next week or two for the Browns. So the important thing for them is to be able to move forward with all the trust and confidence in Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt moving forward. But it's tough when the defense plays as well as it does and the offense doesn't have the output. There's going to be some frustration moving forward in that locker room, but the ticket will be being able to move past it and being able to redouble your focus towards the next week.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting to me is, like you said, Kareem Hunt goes in there now familiar with the system, clearly, having played for the Browns before. So that's good. So that's got to make people feel better, I think, when coming in saying, okay, so now, the NFL, we hear it all the time from players like yourself. It's like, it's next man up. You have to, right? There's that's the way it goes. I mean, there's injuries, there's attrition, unfortunately. But as you move forward with that, what about for the player? Because in this case, the injury was so visible and just pretty terrible, right? I mean, it was just, again, you haven't seen it, but it's not good, right? The one time I had to see it, unfortunately, it's not good. From a player's perspective, the risk, obviously, playing football. But when you see it happen in front of you, does that have any psychological effect whatsoever? Or do you compartmentalize that because you got to go out there every day anyway and play football?
Absolutely. I mean, you see it every season when there are gruesome injuries. The players around the player will react. I have been on the field with people who have thrown up at the sight of an injury. in mid game. It affects you. It deeply affects you. And as much as you try to put it out of your mind, there is a traumatic effect that it has on your psyche. So it's going to affect the guys who were involved. It's going to affect Minkah Fitzpatrick himself, who I'm sure inadvertently caused the injury. So yeah, moving forward for Nick himself, he's gone through this before. He's had a traumatic knee injury on that same knee before, as Adam Schefter very quickly told us that one night on Twitter. But it's important for him to know that he is still one of the best players in the world at his position. And moving forward, he's going to be able to get back to where he is. People are still going to. He's going to still be a professional athlete when it is all said and done. So. Sure. Being able to get back to that speed is really important, and seeing him in the locker room for everybody else up and about, and probably in a brace, maybe on crutches, but being able to see him will have a really positive effect in that locker room itself.
Well, and one of the things too in covering the NFL, Johnny, is I know how much routine and discipline on your daily basis. So when you're going in for your workouts, I don't care if it's during the off-season stuff, after you get done with your little vacation, because we know how much you guys have to work out and continue to do so, even when it's not official. But you come back in the facility, OTAs, and you go into camp finally, and that starts the long process of going through an NFL season. When you do that, and then you have an injury like this, and you're taken out of that routine, how is that? Like, what is that for a guy like Nick Chubb? Like you said, he'll be around, but he's out of his routine. He's not going to be able to do what he's got to do. He's going to be doing physical therapy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he's not around the guys. You guys get so close and mesh together so well heading into a season. How's that for a player in that situation?
It really is important to be able to stay close to the team, not only for the guys around you to be able to see that, like, okay, he's still part of us, but as the person who's injured, you want to be, still have that camaraderie with the guys. You want to have some semblance of normalcy. You're going to be spending 90% of your time in the training room, but so are a ton of the guys on the team alongside you. They're going to be going in for tape. They're going to be going for their own therapy. And being able to be around those guys is super important. In 2018, when I joined the Minnesota Vikings, I spent second preseason game, I broke my ankle. Obviously not quite as traumatic as that injury was on Monday Night Football, but I was able to see it on camera. There was a slow-mo footage of it on TV. And, that had an effect on me, obviously. But I wasn't in Nick Chubb's shoes. They decided to send me back home to be able to rehab. And not having the guys around me had an effect on me. So being able to be around your teammates, being able to, when able to, show up in meetings has a really positive effect. And it's really tangible in the room. Those offensive meetings, when Nick is in there, is going to feel different than when he's not.
Yeah, that's it. And I know, again, that routine and that camaraderie that comes along with being in an NFL locker room is really special. And so being ripped from that and having it change, and then having one of your own not there on a regular basis too, as you said, very interesting. Let me ask you this too, Johnny. Obviously, you're a free agent right now, still able to play, and you're going to get your next opportunity. But the free agent market, the running back market, we saw with guys. I mean, Nick had his contract in Cleveland, but you look at Saquon Barkley, who's out now with a little bit of ankle injury and dealing with that. But Josh Jacobs in Las Vegas. That whole situation, as somebody who plays fullback, which I'm waiting for that big fullback renaissance, by the way. But that's just because I'm older, and I grew up watching all those guys like Neil and everybody. So Lorenzo Neal. So talk about that too from a player perspective for you out there, kind of waiting for that next opportunity. You think it's going to come around like everything else in the NFL? It's kind of cyclical.
Yeah, I think everything, like you said, is cyclical in the NFL. You see all these offenses popping up, and it's not just the spread offense, the Sean McVays of the world, who are creating this incredible, dynamic, spread out offense with great quarterbacks who can not only sit in the pocket but also run around. But then you look at, the Shanahans of the NFL, who really are doubling down on the pro style, on the multiple back formations that are finding a lot of success. So there really are two different directions that the future of the NFL could go. NFL is all about speed. And there is the world of the 90s fullback that is, shoulder, padded up, cowboy collar, not being able to turn their head. That's not the fullback that's in the league anymore, save for a few like Jacob Johnson, who's just an absolute freak. But Kyle Juszczyk is the prototype for what the future of the NFL fullback position is. People will say he's not even a fullback, he's an H-back. Well, that's just semantics at that point. That is somebody who you can stick at any position on the field and he's going to find success. So I know that's who I've tried to model myself after. That's who I want to be able to play as, because I feel like having the experience at quarterback and linebacker and special teams and all these different positions, I want to play everywhere. And if fullback's position they're going to give me, I love it. But if you can stick me in multiple spots, I'm going to find whatever way possible to succeed. And that's how every fullback in the league is. You're not going to find any fullback in the league who can only line up in the backfield. They're going to line up at running back and as a third down running back and pass protect. You're going to find them in the slot. You're going to find them as somebody who can really surprise the defense and mess with their game plan.
There you go. I love it. I'm waiting for it waiting for you to get back on the field too. But in the meantime, hopefully you're going to join us a few more times here during the course of the season on Sportsnaut as we go through the NFL season. By the way, you can check out Johnny's site. Go to Johnny Stanton for IV, JohnnyStantonIV.com. That's also his handle, right? You also got Instagram. They're all the same, right?
StantonIV.com. And all my socials are Johnny Stanton IV, Instagram, Twitter, X, all that good stuff.
There you go. See, so follow him up there as well. Especially if you're into Dungeons and Dragons. That's the one thing I learned about you. I didn't know you were so into Dungeons and Dragons. And my daughter, who's about your age, by the way, a little young, just a little bit younger. She's into that as well, and it's fascinating stuff, man, and it's pretty cool. So go check out his website. You can check all that out, and we certainly appreciate it. Johnny, thanks again. We'll catch up with you very soon.
Thanks, Scott.